It's time for the Lovable Me Show. Based on the award-winning book series, I Am a Lovable Me. Get ready to have some fun learning with Lovable, our resident enlightening bug. Are you ready? Close your eyes and let's count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Now open them. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Lovable Me Show. I'm Sharon Penchina, your host and author of the award-winning I Am a Lovable Me books for children. We've got a great topic to explore today, and that includes talking about energy, intuition, and your child's mental health. We'll also have a special guest joining in that has lots of experience with this due to her background as a mental health counselor. But before I bring her on, I'd like to put up a few slides for you to take a look at. Some of them simply pose questions to help evoke your imagination and your own intuition. So I won't be narrating as much as I typically do, and that should give you a chance to notice if you're able to connect with a deeper sense of self and intuition as you view them. So let's start with intuition. Now, the dictionary description for this is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. This form of guidance comes very naturally and without much effort or thinking, or any effort at all for that matter. Some of the ways we intuit can be represented by a visual image or picture. Hearing words of wisdom or a feeling inside that may come across as a good feeling or even an uneasy one, or simply as a knowing of something you know just has to be true. Now, where does this wisdom come from? What does your own intuition tell you about that? Is it from within or without? Some representations we refer to at times are a sixth sense or your higher consciousness or your higher self or the universe or God or oneness. Do you pay close attention to your intuition? Do you trust your intuition and make decisions and choices based on what naturally comes your way? Or are you pushing it off to the side and ignoring it and choosing to rely on your thinking mind and logically come to a conclusion based on whatever seems to be the facts to date or what others have to say about the subject? When it comes to accessing your intuition, if you set your intent to be open to hearing, seeing, sensing whatever your own guidance system or intuition has to share, that can be so helpful in gaining more access. Simply stilling yourself and relaxing with a simple meditation and expressing an openness to receive. And lastly, don't forget to pay attention. Now, to help us better understand how we can use our intuition to empower ourselves and our children, let me tell you about my special guest today, Jill Sylvester. Jill is a licensed mental health counselor, and she focuses more on life and wellness counseling than traditional therapy. Jill has successfully guided hundreds of clients in private practice in the area of personal development. She's the author of the book, Trust Your Intuition, 100 Ways to Transform Anxiety and Depression for Stronger Mental Health. Jill works with others to help deepen their understanding of the language of energy and intuition. And she's drawn on her own experience working with intuition for over 20 years as a parent raising healthy-minded children, on several cold cases with law enforcement, and with clients in session. And as an author and creator of Planting the Seeds products, she brings her work to those outside her office setting who are seeking social and emotional well-being strategies and stronger mental health. And then with that being said, Jill, I want to welcome you to the Lovable Me Show.
Thank you, Sharon. It's nice to be here.
So it's very interesting that we'll be having this conversation. Jill's on the road, but she managed to make it work, and she's taking the time out so that she can share some important information with us today. So again, thank you for making it work.
Looking forward to it.
So, Jill, I was watching another live show yesterday, and it was featuring a couple of doctor researchers that mentioned that 1 out of every 5 kids has mental health issues. And I really found that quite astonishing.
Mm.
So I wanted to ask, if you can share with us, what is intuition and how does intuition play a part in the work that you do to help children?
Intuition is natural to all of us, and it's something that I feel very strongly about in my practice. I feel like I've built my practice around it, in the sense of helping kids and their parents and individual adults and families to strengthen their own muscle of intuition, to be able to trust the guidance that is naturally available to all of us, and to learn to go inside yourself for the information that you seek versus external sources, which of course is important, but being able to value how you think and feel about something, versus needing others' opinions to, validate your own.
Mm-hmm. So what would a parent want to know, for someone who isn't maybe as familiar with, I think let me sort of backtrack and say, I think sometimes for those who are not maybe as attuned to their intuition or using their intuition or what intuition really is, a lot of times, I'll hear others say, well, I had a gut feeling, about something, or I knew that was going to happen. Are those the kinds of things that parents should be attuned to? Are those some of the, basic signs that, our intuition is trying to share some wisdom with us or some important information for us to glean?
Absolutely. I think it's, very common when we hear, I have a gut feeling about this, or I knew that was going to happen, like you said. And I believe it's taking it from there and building on that conversation to be able to, instead of making it this commonplace thing that's just a coincidence, so to speak, it's more about flexing that muscle and being able to trust that and build on it so that it becomes something that you really value, as opposed to just this thing that just happens,
So what do you recommend, specifically that a parent, caregiver, or, teacher, someone that is interested in this could have a couple of maybe tips that they can leave with today, in utilizing that or teaching that? What do you recommend getting started with?
Like anything else, when you're interested in something, that's when you're going to see more of it. And, it's like the story when everybody says they buy a car, right? And then they start seeing that car on the road all the time. It's like that, in the sense of, if you want to develop your intuition, then paying more attention to it is the very first step. So, for example, in the case where you said, someone would say, oh, I got a gut feeling about that. Make a list of, in the beginning, of all the times that happens to you, so that you can start to notice and become much more hyper aware of the flow that happens of synchronicity and serendipitous events, so that you can see how much more commonplace it is than just, again, these things that just happen to us by chance. So making a list and noticing it is one. Journaling it ahead of time, like when you get a sense of something ahead of time, and then watching how things play out to compare how you felt about something versus the actual result, is a great way to flex that muscle. So you start to, again, shape and mold your intuition to start to learn how to use it at will and be able to, kind of take control of your experiences a little bit more. And that comes in the form of intention, which is a whole other conversation, but paying attention to it and noticing it and becoming an ally with it, it's very important.
Yeah, and I think we're talking about this because following your intuition or paying attention to it when it comes to decision making, or and it can be in any area of your life, your health, your wellness, making decisions about a move or a job, or you know something important related to your child. It generally, when we look back in retrospect, we think about those things. Well, I should have paid attention, or I should have listened to my inner guidance system, because it probably would have played out better. So we're talking about this because it will help us in making those decisions, and hopefully more successful ones. So when over the years, I know you've been practicing for 20 years. Have you noticed that the types of challenges you see children presenting with have changed over the years, or are you seeing, is it a common sort of theme that you see all the time?
Well, weaving intuition into that to continue that conversation, this is a life skill that we want to teach kids at an early age to trust their own. And how parents can help kids is to develop their own sense of mental strength in the form of trusting, what they see and feel and how they think about a situation or a job or a relationship, so that they can teach their kids how to do it. Because we want this for kids. We want kids to be able to, and this is part of my practice, it's been part of my parenting. My oldest child is a sophomore in college, my youngest is a junior in high school, and we've been working this muscle for almost 20 years, to be able to teach them to trust the feelings and impressions they get before something is about to happen. So I use these examples in the book about before a child goes to school, and being able to kind of tune in. What's your sense of what the teacher will be like, or the coach before a new sports team starts, and being able to have fun with it, just for fun.
Mhm.
And then when you start school, or when you start that sports team, was it as close, or was it a huge contrast to what you had thought in your mind? And so it becomes this fun little exercise for kids to start to notice how they feel initially, compare the results, and then you build on that. So the older kids get, is this a good relationship for me? Is this somewhere I should go or not go? Is this a job I should take or not take? Based on those initial impressions. So how we teach kids is to value what they feel from the beginning. So, you asked if things changed over time. I think, anxiety is huge, and how we get this in check is to teach kids how to trust themselves and what they feel, so that no matter what happens, they can rely on themselves, quell that anxious feeling to somewhere where they have trusted that first impression, that they had, which is the direction they need to go in, which may be different from their friends. It may be different from, the group mindset, but it's their own, which is, their own North Star and what's most important.
Yeah, so honoring their feelings is a great way for us to support those feelings. And when it comes to younger children, because it's easier, sometimes it's easier to have that conversation with a little bit older child, but I'm sure that there are some, I don't know if you want to say games or fun activities, or some ways we can start attuning even the youngest children uh, in this direction, because I always talk about the fact that the 0 to 7 age group is the super learnings ages, and that's the time where we really want to uh, develop the behaviors, habits, and beliefs that will last a lifetime. And it's so much easier because there isn't that sort of critical logic mindedness that comes in and says, no, that's not good, that's not right, it's not for me. So what would you recommend for parents, again, and parents and caregivers, that they can do with their young kiddos to get an early jump on this?
So same examples that I gave earlier. It's a great little tool to give kids. Let's say they're nervous for the first day of kindergarten and they have no idea how it's going to go or who's going to like them or who's going to be there. A fun little exercise to do would be to have them close their eyes and imagine what their teacher looks like. And so the parent might sit right beside them and write down everything they can imagine with their eyes closed. So it's using their imagination, which is the same tool for a 20-year-old, same tool for a 50-year-old, same tool for an 80-year-old, right? So being able to have them close their eyes and say, what does that teacher look like? Are they tall? Are they small? Do they look mean? Do they look friendly? Write everything down so that the child starts to have a sense of control about the situation. And now when they open their eyes and their exercise is done and they've listed everything they can, they're looking forward now to see if they're right. So you go to school, you come back, say, okay, what was it like? What did the teacher look like? What was their personality like? What was the classroom like? And then you compare the results, and kids just naturally become inclined to want to build on that exercise and do it for other things. So you can do this the sky's the limit on the exercises you can do, but what helps a child in that sense is to learn to close their eyes and trust the information that comes without it being some, weird thing. It's very normal. It could be a totally normal process, but also to check in with themselves and see how close they were to the information that came to them with their second sight, and being able to compare it as they grow. So that's a super fun exercise. I give that to my clients a lot. And it's nice to hear them come back and talk about how the kids, nail it, a lot of the time. So it's fun.
Yeah, I think writing it down is great. It makes it, that much more real, and you can kind of look back on it and really know what you were thinking and feeling at that time. So it just gives it a lot more power. So I think that's a great way to go. And also the fact that the young kiddos are going to be watching what's going on with their siblings and their parents, because we are their greatest role model. So I'm assuming just in doing these types of exercises ourselves, and being verbal about it and illustrating it in front of them is probably going to have the biggest impact.
Yes. And, having little kids color it too, like have them draw what they think their classroom's going to look like, or a friend that they're going to meet, or whatever they're afraid of. And then very, very important is to praise that child for when the actual situation happens. So you can say, oh, look, your teacher had glasses just like you thought they were going to. Mm-hmm. Or, the bean bags were red in the classroom, just like you imagined them to be. And it really builds this innate sense of character, which is going to help them with their self-esteem, which is going to help them flex that intuitive muscle so that they always use it throughout. And it's just, again, it's fun, and it serves their well-being at the same time.
And while you were just saying that, I was thinking, even having some sort of game around it where it really becomes their superpower.
Mm-hmm.
So mm-hmm. You could really build a whole scenario or game around that too, which I think is extremely empowering for children.
Yes, definitely.
So, and I don't want to shift off the piece or the focus being using intuition, but perhaps that might even be part of, your answer to my next question. I'm just wondering, as someone in the mental health industry, what should parents take note of or be aware of that might be an indicator that your child, uh, might need additional assistance from, what you're doing at home, some sort of counseling or some help from someone like yourself or someone in the field that's able to assist?
A red flag certainly to look for is if your child is unable to articulate the way that they're feeling, being able to say or not say they're happy or sad or jealous or angry, or, a child that's inward. I always say I'd rather have a child who is explicit with their emotions than someone who turns inward. As difficult as that can be at times with a kid who can tend to be explosive or angry, I'm more concerned about a child who doesn't go there at all. So if a parent is unable to get them to talk about their feelings, that would certainly be a time to initiate counseling or to look into having at least a couple sessions to learn how to parent around emotional awareness or teach kids to be able to articulate how they're feeling emotionally. Um, and I would say that's probably, the biggest sign, and just withdrawing and not being able to control their emotions for sure.
Mm-hmm. And, I can imagine as someone who, supports and counsels children, you know, and just from hearing, from friends or, having had experiences, in my lifetime with children in the family, that, sometimes there's almost, a further, retreating inward when you take a child to a counselor who hasn't, expressed the desire to go, and doesn't understand, that maybe there's something that they need help with, and may even further retreat inward, in a session with some, stranger. How do you deal with that type of thing? How does, and it may be something that you'll say now that could be instrumental to a parent or caregiver as well.
That I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's really important not to send a message to a child that he or she is a problem. And a lot of times there's a stigma for kids when they go into a counseling room when not of their own initiative. So my general rule is to see parents first, so that I can teach them the strategies around what they may need or not need, and have them go home and work it at home. And usually I found that that takes care of it. It's top down. And when parents can really start to understand what their child needs, you can usually take care of these things at home. And that's a beautiful process to watch. If a parent feels like they want to get me or a counselor involved, at that point, then certainly you can bring the child in. And I like to angle it around a family counseling perspective, so that the child knows that, everybody is there to learn, not just them, that there's, a problem. I like to use the word challenges, and we all have them. So part of working with someone objectively is to learn how to overcome those challenges. So yeah, I typically work with the parents first. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I love the word challenges too, because I use that all the time.
Mm.
It's really never a problem. It's always a challenge. And a challenge is something that you can rise, up to and empower yourself to meet. So it's always a very positive thing. I know I asked you this a little bit earlier on, but I'm wondering, I guess it's my own curiosity. I wonder if, uh, the types of, challenges you're seeing with, children whether they're younger, a little bit older. Has that changed over the years that you've been in practice, maybe due to societal changes, social media, all the divisiveness, school violence? I mean, there's so much now out in front of us all the time. I'm just wondering how children are reacting or responding to that. And is that something that you see showing up more?
Yeah, anxiety has always been there, certainly, but anxiety is just everywhere. I think kids are feeling it a lot more because of social media. I think younger kids are feeling it a lot more because their parents are a lot of parents, I dare I say most, are on social media or on their devices a lot. So there's like this constant buzz that's happening. And it's very important to learn how to step away from the buzz and use it for what we need to, which is an amazing tool that helps all of our lives. But being able to put it in perspective, because it does, I feel, create this, anxiety with kids. And it goes beyond the electronics, obviously, as well. But just, yeah, anxiety is huge. It's there. And I think for the little ones and the older ones, it's a phenomenon right now. It really is.
Yeah. And I think, with so much attention to, and listen, a lot of technology is to our betterment too. So, I mean, I'm not discounting that. It's just, I like to be cognizant, and I've, said this in other shows before, that one of the greatest gifts you can offer someone is your undivided attention and really listening to them. And sometimes, that takes parents and caregivers to put down these devices, so that you really look into the eyes of your child and you listen to them, more active listening role. And all of that is, something that I think we all need to, take notice of and do a better job at, if we're not already. I'm wondering, are there some tools or, some strategies that you'd like to offer parents to help with supporting their children?
Yeah, being present. Presence is everything. If you want to help your child with anxiety, then be present with them. It's a very simple but hard thing to do when we're all distracted and we have a million things going on. But teaching or being present with your child teaches them how to be present with themselves, with their family, with other people. It helps them to just relax and be okay with who they are. And there's no better person to role model for kids than parents and also teachers. When you're present with another person and fully receiving what they have to say and showing up, regardless of all the demands on our time, you're instantly role modeling for your child on how to do that. And it's such an important gift with, everything we have going on right now, for kids to be able to do that. And that lessens anxiety. When you can be present, you're in your legs, you're grounded, you're tethered to the earth, and your anxiety is going to be something that's far more manageable than something that overwhelms you.
I love that. Thank you. That was great. Before we end, Jill, because I can't believe, but time went by very quickly here. I just want to circle around back to intuition, because I really love that topic, and I think it's easy sometimes to forget that it's like everything else. You said building a muscle, and I always talk about creating habits, behaviors, and beliefs through repetition. So again, repetition is key in really embedding these, this way of living, really, and deepening it in the subconscious mind, and setting forth an intention to be open to receiving. I don't know if you refer to it as your own inner guidance, or just intuition in general. I think it's such it's so important for us to think about, because a lot of times we forget. Is there anything you can leave us with before we end the show about intuition that, you think we should all just kind of give us a good feeling leaving and something to think of, not something to think about, just something to know?
To trust it. It always serves you. Anxiety can often be in the form of intuition. Sometimes we get a feeling about something and it feels yucky, but really anxiety, and again, I talk about this in the book, it's our friend. Learning how to read the message of anxiety, that it's not there to torture us. It's there to maybe give us a warning, maybe give us a message, maybe give us some guidance in a direction. But being able to look past the illusion of negative anxiety and turning it into a positive. That's how you really can catapult your intuition, by learning to ally with anxiety and moving it forward that way.
Oh, that's great. Well, I thank you for that. That's something, I like the way you phrase that. So yes, we can become allies with our feelings and whatever's going on, and rise up to the challenge and be more empowered because we've gained that insight early on. So I want to thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you here. I hope you enjoyed yourself as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for working with me in my little office here today.
Jill, before I end the show, anything you want to share in terms of how the audience can reach you? Please, go ahead and do that.
Yes, you can connect with me on Instagram at Jill_Sylvester, on Facebook at Jill Sylvester, and to certainly check out my books, Trust Your Intuition, Land of Blue, on Amazon, and my Planting the Seeds cards for little ones and their parents can be found on my website at JillSylvester, SYLVESTER.com.
Terrific. So Jill has some great tools for you, so go ahead and check them out. And be sure to check out all the I Am a Lovable Me books as well today by clicking on the link at the very end of this video. The books are available in hardcover as well as audio iBooks. Also, you'll never miss any of our great shows by watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, or Periscope every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a topic you think parents and caregivers want to hear about and would like to be a guest on my show, drop me an email or just connect with me on Facebook. I'm your host, Sharon Penchina, and I'll be back next week with some more great self-empowerment tips for you. Thank you all for joining in, and be sure you have a fantastic day and pay attention to your intuition.
Thank you for watching The Lovable Me Show. Also, if you have any questions for Lovable, go ahead and ask away. Don't forget to visit us next week, right here in the Facebook bugbear.